colleagues, let me apologize for my camera. My camera is not showing my face, but my name is Charles Ndugu. I am the current president of SACAP, and today we are having a webinar on a proposed task and deliverable professional fee guideline. This fee guideline is additional to the one that we have, the one we call ad valorem. Ad valorem is based on the cost of the project. You first have to actually have the cost of the project, and then you start calculating your fees. This one it does not need any cost of the project. I think you can work out your resources, your deliverables, you list all your deliverables, and then from there you put your resources, and then you cost your service before you even know the cost of the project. We are using this approach purely because of the challenges that we've received, and particularly from the Competition Commission, South Africa, to actually make sure that our service is based on the cost of the service of a professional that is undertaking a job. So what we've done, a few years ago, we started embarking on this journey in the fees committee, and we started roping in Mr. Eugene Barnard and other experts in the industry or in the profession to help us develop the task and deliverable professional fee guideline. Why we did this? Because we are having a problem with the procurement systems that are actually in place in our country, where there's a lot of discount with regards to the project-based fee guideline. And what we've done here, we are trying to actually assist our profession or professionals to make sure that if they discount, they also discount the service scope, rather than discounting the fee and then they provide the full service. The idea of this is to make sure that we do not undercut ourselves as a professional, so that we can provide proper service and get remunerated properly for the service that we give to our clients. So today we are going to be discussing that, and Mr. Eugene Barnard, I'm going to hand over to him to go through the presentation, to actually start engaging. After he has presented, we will all have answers, questions and answers, and then we close it. It's a short session. It's not a long session. Then the Vice President, Letsabi Sashong, will close it. Yeah. All over to you, Mr. Barnard.
Great. Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. I'm going to be sharing two documents with you. Initially, it's going to be a PowerPoint presentation and then an Excel file. Can I just ask that Munetsi or someone confirm that my screen is visible?
It's visible.
Yes,
Okay.
it's visible.
Great. Okay. Colleagues, this is a workshop. It's devised to get input from the profession. It doesn't come to you as cut and dried. It's an attempt to address everything that the President has explained to you. So, so bear with me. We're going to go through this, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session and a discussion as to how best we can deal with this issue. We've just dubbed this guideline the ArchiTAD, and now I must just work out how do I move from one. Here we are. Okay. ArchiTAD. I'll tell you in a moment what it stands for. But as you all know, running an architectural practice is so easy. All you have to do is to take your cost, add your profit, and then you arrive at your fee. Or is it that simple? I'm sure we all know that it's not that simple. ArchiTAD is just an acronym for a task and deliverables professional fees guideline for use by architectural professionals to calculate the cost of rendering a professional service. The objective, ArchiTAD's objective, is to assist architectural professionals to calculate the cost of their service and enable them to run their practices at a profit. So the scope of this presentation, what we're going to be doing this morning, is we're going to run through 20 general principles that will cast the foundations for what I'm going to be showing you on the spreadsheet that's been developed, the ArchiTAD spreadsheet. When we get to the spreadsheet, we're going to run through all the work stages, including a stage 0, which is a pre-appointment stage, which we've introduced for the purposes of ArchiTAD. And then at the end, the final tab on the spreadsheet is a summary tab. Once we're done with that, we'll take questions. So if you don't mind, then I'm going to switch my camera off. It's just going to make it easier for you to see the full screen, I think. So let's go into the general principles. It's not rocket science. Okay, there we are. ArchiTAD is a guideline. It's a tool to assist architectural professionals to estimate the cost of their service. It is not exhaustive. The activities listed are indicative activities only. It is up to each architectural professional to determine the composition, the scope, and the cost of their services. Secondly, stage 0, which we've dubbed initiation or definition, is included as a pre-appointment stage to enable the architectural professional to assess the brief and the scope of the work before calculating the cost of the service. Now, stages 0 and 1 may overlap. Third principle, the architectural professional may elect to cover the cost of stage 1 as it is a pre-appointment stage. Alternatively, if it is a big project and it requires a lot of effort to cost it, they may elect to charge the client by agreement a fee to execute the stage, in other words, to prepare the quotation. The fourth principle, when the scope of a project is not clearly defined, the architectural professional is at risk if they quote a fee to do the work. That sounds obvious. It's not always obvious. The architectural professional may elect to negotiate an initial fee for stages 0, 1 and/or 1 and 2, because for that very reason, it's imperative, it's critically important that before you quote a fee on a task and deliverable basis, you understand the scope of the work. Principle number 5, once the project is clearly defined, sometimes only after stage 1 or 2, and only then, the architectural professional will be in a better position to calculate the cost of the service for stages 3 through 6. The 6th principle, the professional needs to track changes from one stage to the next. We seldom do that. Where appropriate, an additional fee should be agreed to effect changes, deviations from the brief, changes that influence the architectural professional's costing. So if we're dealing with a moving target in terms of the brief, then we must build in mechanisms to be able to cost those deviations. 7th principle, the architectural professional needs to bear in mind that the cost of their service is affected by changes in scope of service, project value, and the duration of the project. Monitor this constantly for the full duration of the project. Program creep and service fatigue often occurs during stage 5 and 6. Those are also the stages over which the architectural professional has least control. The professional may elect to quote a fixed monthly fee for those stages. And in other words, when quoting, instead of quoting per deliverable, which it's difficult to quote in stage 5 and 6, quote a fixed monthly fee so that if the project period is extended, then your fee is not jeopardized. ArchiTAD distinguishes between the service of the architectural professional, the architectural or the principal consultant, and the principal agent. The architectural professional is at risk if the distinctions are ignored. You will recall that our present guideline fee or fee guideline assumes that we are all three, and we are called to discount where we are not. This guideline fee suggests that we separate those functions and we quote separately for them. It puts the control in your hands. 10th, clusters have been introduced in each work stage. In the left-hand column of the ArchiTAD spreadsheet, the cluster represents the essential component of that service in each stage. So let's say work stage 1 or 2, you have 4 or 5 clusters, and those clusters are the essential components, essential activities within that work stage. And you cannot exclude any particular cluster. And if you do so, it will put you at grave risk. So when you look at the spreadsheet, just remember the first column on the left-hand side identifies the clusters. Then the guideline activities in the third column of each cluster are merely indicative activities. We've tried to be as comprehensive as possible, but still it will be necessary for you to check those guideline activities that form part of clusters. They may or they might not apply to a given project. The architectural professional may decide, agree with the client that certain of those activities be excluded or be performed by others. So then everyone knows what your responsibility is and what the other party's responsibility is. Between the cluster column which is the first column, and the third column, which is the guideline activities. We have identified main tasks under each cluster. Right, then 12th principle, the architectural professional needs to calculate the rate per resource or per person who will work on the project. For the sake of abbreviation, we've called that the PAX. The rate comprises, as you would know, a salary component and an overhead component. So when you work out the cost of each of your staff members, you do so by looking at the salary component and then all the other overhead components, and so you can work out a rate. There are Fresh Projects, I know, has assistance in that regard. A profit component can be included in the rate. So in other words, your rate can include your profit. If it is not included in the rate, you can then add your profit at the end of the calculation. So you can then separate the cost of the component or the resource and the profit that you intend to charge. So if you charge zero profit, it means that you're working at cost. Disbursements. Disbursements should be included in the cost calculation for each stage of work. Apply your mind, don't thumb suck, and estimate or quote accurately and monitor your disbursement costs carefully on a large project that can become quite exhaustive. Right, then when we get to the spreadsheet, you'll see the 14th principle is that users can hide certain columns in the spreadsheet. And I just mentioned column G, the guideline activities, or column I, which is the outcomes or the deliverables, if you want to simplify the guideline and make it a simple tool. So the spreadsheet really is for you to utilize. 15, the 15th point, BIM is mentioned, but the use and management of BIM requires expertise and resources that not everyone has. The item should be properly appraised and priced, as it will constitute a major cost. Equally, AI, and that's an unknown factor at this stage, AI may also impact on the cost of service delivery. Right. When the architectural professional quotes to do work for a fixed fee, they need to clearly state under which circumstances the fee will be adjusted. Items that cannot be measured cannot be costed. So it's impossible for you to quote to do certain activities if you don't know the extent of that activity. So an architectural professional may offer certain clusters of services in the form of a provisional allowance and then quote a rate to perform the service. Clients need to understand that you cannot take the risk of something which you cannot measure. Use the rate and time expended later then to calculate the actual cost of the service. That's exactly what we do under the building contract when we include provisional allowances. Here's an item which we often normally ignore, because if you quote on a project value, then the project value automatically takes care of escalation. The architectural professional's proposal should make allowance for escalation. Projects tend to take longer than initially intended. Escalation will erode the original fee and thus the profit if escalation is not provided for. Now, you can imagine if you quote a fee for a project in year one, you are basing your rates on your present day costs, and this project then turns out to be a 3-year project. It means that if inflation runs at whatever, 5% per annum, by the time you get to year 3, your rates are already 10-20% lower than what they should be. So you need to provide for escalation. Oops, sorry. Additional resources. The schedule allows for the costing of 4 resources per project. Should there be more than 4 resources involved in the project, additional columns can just be added to the spreadsheet. Then using ArchiTAD to estimate the cost is only one side of the coin. The architectural professional should monitor the time spent per work stage at the completion of each stage to indicate whether you are actually running at a profit or not. And this enables you then to gauge and manage profitability. Right. Colleagues, I'm going to stop sharing then. And if you allow me then just to, how do I share now? Here's the share button. Let's see. Where do I get to the share button? Because I need to now share the second document.
Just check at the bottom of your screen,
Okay.
the bottom of the screen. Can you see it?
Share, there we are. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
There we are. Let's just get to that second document then. Great. Okay, Charles, am I visible again?
Yes, you are. You are visible.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Colleagues, you will recall that I said I'm going to share an Excel file with you. So this is the Excel file that we've developed. We've called it ArchiTAD, and it consists of a whole number of tabs at the bottom. The first tab sets out the notes to users, and those 20 notes are the principles that I have just shared with you. So I have summarized them there. Then we have stage 1 tab, stage 2 tab, stage 3 tab, which is stage 2, stage 3 tab, stage 4.1 tab, stage 4.2 tab, stage 5 tab, stage 6 tab, and then the summary tab. So what I'd like to do is I'm just going to start with stage 1. We'll revert back to stage 0 once I've just explained to you the basics of this, of how the Excel, the spreadsheet works. So in this column, we've got an indication of which stage we're in. Stage 1 relates to the stage tab at the bottom. Then this is the column which includes the identified clusters. Stage 1 is the inception and appraisal stage. And here we've identified clusters that are essential for this stage. So we have the brief, then we have the appraisal of the brief as a cluster. We have the report, in which you will summarize the stage. And then for each work stage, we have a cluster which we call administration. And these stages, would be difficult to cost, but you've got to be aware of them. Then we have, I remember I mentioned to you that we're going to look at the architectural services, and then separate from that, we have the principal consultant or principal agents stages. So what we've got there relates to the activities that principal consultant is responsible for. These activities here form part of the architectural service. So that's column 1, gives you the clusters. This column gives you the activities. In other words, the main tasks that form part of the clusters. And you will see here that we've identified as part of the brief, you receive and affirm the, or you receive the brief and or affirm the brief. Under this cluster, which is the appraisal, you appraise the brief, or you assist with the development of the brief, and you source information and drawings. Under appraisal, you would be required to at least have some engagement with local authorities or other authorities as part of your appraisal. And you would, or you could also at this point prepare some basic design outlines as to how you're going to be approaching the project. Then under the report, you've got to prepare the report, and you've got to then administer the work stages. So that would be that column there. Then under this column, which we've called guideline activities, and this is the column that I said to you is as complete as possible, but it's not exhaustive. And you then would take these activities and you would relate them to the project and see which of these activities actually apply to your project. Now, here we've said expected stage duration. We've put in 2 weeks. You would know from experience how long the stage is going to be. So the time that you're going to allocate would relate then to the time that you estimate the project to be. So what we then have done is we have looked at a typical brief. In an ideal world, you'll receive the brief, and the brief would consist of, we've penned 12 activities. 0 activity, you would conduct some meetings, at least an interview. The brief would tell you what the project objectives are. Brief will tell you all about the site, the infrastructure, the budget, feasibility and cost control, program, the project team, scope of service to be rendered, will BIM be implemented, what information is available, what are the construction options, who's the client's authorized representative, which is critically important, and what are the client's obligations. Now, what we've done is we have, at the end of this column, past principal consultant, we have put a section which we've called notes. And these notes expound on what we have above. So, for example, here now, each of those 12 points is set out in greater detail. So, project objectives. What are the needs? What is the quality required? What are the sustainability targets? What is the feasibility requirements, what are the accommodation requirements, and you'd have an area schedule here as well. Then as far as the site is concerned, we've tried to cover most, if not all aspects. Who owns the site? Do we have the deeds of the site? What are the rights of the site? What are the environmental considerations, the heritage considerations? Is there a survey of the site? Do we have an SG diagram? Do we have access to the site, or where is the access? What about the geotech? What about the vegetation? Are there servitudes or other constraints? Are there existing buildings? What is the context of this site within the neighborhood? Then the infrastructure. What is the situation regarding domestic water, fire water, electricity, data, roads, service contributions, sewer capacity, stormwater capacity? In terms of budget and feasibility, is there a budget? Has a feasibility study been done, or should it be done? What are the cost control protocols to prevent a project from missing the target? Then deal with the program and the timelines, and then the project team. A schedule of services needs to be prepared, and a design responsibility matrix needs to be prepared. There needs to be a protocol on the exchange of information, and if there's a BIM protocol, then the BIM protocol will cover that. Who is the project team? And so we've listed town planners, traffic engineers, environmental consultants, heritage consultants, social facilitators, urban designers, OHS agents, QS, civil engineers, structural engineer, mechanical, wet services, fire, electrical, electronic, interior design, landscape, BIM, green star specialist, facade engineers, and there might be others. What is the scope of the service that needs to be rendered? Is it a full service, work stage 1 to 6? Is it a partial service? What are your obligations to tenants and to the leasing if you're busy with commercial work? Who's going to be the principal consultant? Who will be the principal agent? Will BIM be implemented? And if so, is there a protocol? In terms of information, who are the regulatory bodies and what are the constraints? It's local authority, it's heritage, it's town planning, and there's obviously each project has its own set of constraints. Are there existing plans? Do plans need to be prepared and submitted to heritage? Is there site data available? Design options. At this point in time, are we looking at basic design approaches to the project? And are there common or prescribed standards that have to be used? You know, sometimes if you do work for large tenants, they've got their own manuals. So all of that you would cover under information. Yeah, you deal with construction options, and authorized client representative, and it would be good to have that confirmed in writing and the client obligations. Okay, so you will recall that a certain percentage under the existing fee scale is allocated to work stage 1. Colleagues, if the work stage 1 is done properly, you earn your fee, and you lay the foundation for a project, and it becomes essentially the roadmap for the project. If this stage is not properly done, obviously you're going to have a problem. So what we are saying is, remember when you do the calculation of your fee, which I'll show you in a moment, then you need to consider all the work that needs to be done. Right, under appraisal, we have appraise or contribute to all considerations above. It can be that a client comes to you without any of this, And all of that you would then have to do as part of your appraisal. So appraise the considerations above. Consider the need for delayed compensation work. In other words, if the client says, or if you and the client agree, there's a cash flow problem, and he can't pay you now, but he can pay you later, then make sure that you have a delayed compensation agreement. Provide feedback from previous projects. If you are a specialist at designing houses or designing offices, then you can make an input from previous projects. Undertake or advise on the need for feasibility studies, and then, very important, confirm the project brief. As I said, the project brief becomes the foundation of the work that you will be doing, and if you do not confirm that project brief, you are on shaky ground. Under engaging with authorities, conduct meetings and gather data. Determine the other regulatory statutory bodies that might be involved in. Engage with the local authority. Inquire the format of the submissions, particularly, if you work in a domain other than the area in which you are. Make sure that you know how that works. Prepare design outline. Execute precedent studies. That's something that is neglected, but it's important, and you should be paid for those precedent studies. Indicate design potential, architectural possibilities under work stage 1. Then prepare your report, and so make sure then that all the work you're doing is contained in a work stage 1 report. Now, under administration, we've just put in some steps here just for you to consider. Receive your instruction. Evaluate risk and profitability and decide whether to accept or not to accept the project. Register the instruction. Receive and register client information and authority to act and affidavits. No, that's the first thing that you are shown when you go to a lawyer or you go to a doctor. They will give you a form that you've got to fill in which you record all of that information. Do you have that? And are you doing that? Finalize the terms, the scope, the fees, the direct cost, PI insurance. Prepare your client architect agreement. Sign the agreement. Claim and receive activation fees. And if it's the policy of your practice to upfront require a deposit or an activation fee of 5,000 Rand or whatever to cement the appointment, then this is the point at which you need to claim that. Conduct and minute client meetings and team meetings. Record communication processes. Resource your project. Of course, you need to know who's going to be the partner in charge of the project. And if the project partner is not the champion of the project, you need to have a project champion who's going to be doing the design of the work, who's going to do the other activities. So at this point, you've actually got to do planning around how you're going to be able to render the service. Confirm the stage index report content. These are all sort of in-house activities. Package the report, present the report, obtain the client's approval for the stage, obtain the client's instruction to proceed to the next stage. We underestimate that we allow one stage to bleed into the next without making sure that we have the client's instruction to proceed. And then evaluate internally time, cost, risks, insurance, and at the end of the stage, claim your fee and receive payment. Now, if you are the principal consultants, then these activities need to be considered, and some of them will relate to the activities above. Remember, as principal or consultant, you're assisting the client to put everything together. You've got to assist the client to identify the services and the consultants, identify other service providers, confirm the scope of the services. You remember we spoke about design responsibility matrix. It would be the principal consultant who should assist with that. Procure services of the other consultants, appointment letters, agreements, who's going to coordinate that. And I'm assuming here that there's no project manager involved. So as a principal consultant, that would be or could be your responsibility. Prepare and administer the agreements. So these are all items that are cost items that need to be costed. BIM, who's going to prepare the BIM protocol, who's going to implement and share the protocol, and administer the BIM protocol. As for administration, finalize the project brief for the team, confirm procurement policies, assemble signed agreements, prepare schedules of contents and approvals required, confirm the program timelines, obtain reports from the team, assemble the stage reports, present the combined report to the client, obtain client approval for stage, obtain client instructions, and then claim and receive the fee. Okay, colleagues, so this is as elaborate as we could be, but it's for you, for your benefit, and well, at this stage for your input as well, because it doesn't help that we're going to quote a fee on a task and deliverables basis, but we don't know what the tasks are and we don't know what the deliverables are. So in this column, we've outlined the outcome, which is just another word for deliverable. So you have meetings, you have the brief, you have the appraisal of the brief, you have information that that you have to acquire. There's a basic design outline that you would produce, even if just in words. You have a report that you've got to produce. You have risk assessments that have got to be done. You've got a protocol. So you can now look at this column and say, which of these tasks has an outcome and what is the outcome? Right, then we move on to the next 4 clusters of columns. These 4 are identical. Let's take, just to start with, this column. So you've got tax 1 or resource 1, and you've got a rate for that resource. And that resource is going to spend time on some of these activities and clusters. And please, I have just inserted just a number and a rate, just so that we could put in a formula. But you will then, for this cluster, let's say the brief, or let's say the appraisal of the brief, you're going to allocate 2 hours to appraise the brief, and the person who's going to assist with the appraisal, that's his rate. But this person is also going to spend 2 hours appraising the brief, and that's his rate. And this person the same, and then there's a formula in this cell which will then add up, will multiply and add up and give you a total amount for this cluster, which is the appraisal. Now, if you want to go to even more detail, you can, by copying and inserting the information into these cells, you can actually cost each one of them. It's not set up that way, but that obviously would be for you to see. It becomes very detailed if you appraise and cost each of these items. But what's important is you get to a cost for each of these clusters. You know that this cluster is going to cost you 10,000 Rand. That cluster is going to cost you 21,000 Rand. This cluster will cost you 7,000 Rand. This cluster is going to cost you 8,000 Rand. So at the end of the day, to render this service is going to cost you 46,500 Rand. And to render the service of the principal consultant is going to cost you an additional 35,000 Rand. So now you are starting to look at what is this service actually costing me? Because I think the big problem with architects and architectural professions is that we don't actually know and understand how much it costs to render the service. So I've gone through this in greater detail just to show you the philosophy behind this spreadsheet. Now, if we backtrack just one stage to stage 0, this stage is what we call it stage 0. It's initiation and definition. It's a pre-appointment stage. We expect this stage to take 1 week. And the stage is introduced because you have a client that's going to come into your office and he wants you to quote on a fee, but you first need to do due diligence to try and ascertain how much this is going to cost you to render the service. Now, it's easy if it's a clear-cut a brief, but if it's not a clear-cut brief, then there are certain activities, main activities that need to take place. You've got to conduct meetings. You've got to consider these items to some extent. We've covered these items in great detail with work stage 1. You've got to know where the site is and you've got to do some appraisal of the site. You've got to engage with local authorities to some extent. You've got to evaluate these items. You've got to conclude. And the conclusion is quite simple. Decide, yes, I will prepare a fee proposal, or no, I will not prepare a fee proposal, or let's wait before we prepare a fee appraisal. Because what might be possible, if the brief is too vague for you to actually calculate your fee, then you might want to go back to your client and say, but let's phase my appointment so that initially I assist you with work stage 1 and work stage 2 for a specific fee. And this is how we're going to calculate the fee. And then at that stage, we can then negotiate a fee for the rest of the work stages. Because in some circumstances, it is just pure impossible to calculate a fee without doing some homework. Okay, so let's assume then that you have prepared under work stage 0, you are able to prepare a fee proposal. You then start with work stage 1. You've now costed it. And what I can show you here is, for example, if you now know that you're going to need an additional resource, you copy that column and you paste it there. And so now you can change that. You have now an additional resource for the project. Or if the project is not that complicated, you say, look, I don't need, for the purposes of this exercise, the house that I'm doing or the alteration, I don't really need these columns. So what you then do is you just hide those columns, and then this entire ArchiTAD spreadsheet becomes a lot simpler, because now you are dealing with just a brief and a few main activities, and so you can allocate then your resources and cost them. So if you then want to get that back to the original, you just unhide that and it takes you back there. Okay, so now we move on to stage 2. And what we've done in stage 2 is we've looked at what happens in stage 2. Stage 2, you're preparing a cost and viability proposal. There is still an issue with the brief, because what you need to do, remember I said at each work stage, do your homework and check that there haven't been issues or deviations that will influence your work. So you've got to reaffirm the brief. You've got to record. Yes.
Eugene, sorry, my good colleague. It's just that there are some comments where they're asking for the captions to be on the screen. So if Mr. Monetti can have the captions on the screen, that'll be helpful.
The captions referring to what?
I think it's, you know, those, as you're speaking, it's typing what you're saying to be on the screen. But it,
Okay.
Mr. Monetti will do it, yes.
I'll try to put, I've tried to put them, but I don't know what's really happening. They're coming off, but I'll try to put them again.
Okay, Balmits, thank you. Carry on.
Okay, just a question then. Should I stop sharing and share my screen rather, or?
No,
no, don't worry. Continue. I'll do it on the background. Say.
Yes, you continue.
Okay.
You continue. Yeah.
Okay. So what we've got now is under work stage 2, we said there's the brief you've got to deal with, because there might be changes to the brief, and those changes might have impacted on the fees. So moving from stage 1 to stage 2, we always go back one step to reassess the previous stage. Under concept, you will reappraise the brief. You will prepare the concept, and the concept preparation will be obviously the design, review the design objectives, advanced design, show space and provisions and relationships. Under concept, you will engage with the consultants. You'll have a workshop with the consultants. You present the concept, initial concepts. You prepare responsibility matrix or monitor the responsibility matrix in the program. You'll issue information to the consultants. You'll monitor consultants' concept designs. You'll conduct and record design meetings. You'll implement consultants' feedback. Can I just ask, Munetti, when I click on a cell, are you actually seeing the click on the cell? Is it visible to the viewers? Okay.
Yes, we can see you clicking.
Okay, fine. No, that's fine. Then still part of the concept design is obviously the interaction with authorities. You've got to evaluate the design, check for conformity. You've got to there might be pre-application for an SDP submission or other submissions, and receive or confirm approval from authorities. Now, we've put them in work stage 2, but they would equally also, some of these activities would relate to work stage 3 and work stage 4.1. It all depends on who you're working for. But obviously, the earlier that these engagements happen with the local authorities, the better. And what's nice about this approach is you can now decide with this spreadsheet as a tool. You can now decide where you actually want to insert those activities, and you get paid for them because you've now costed for them. Right, then you're going to be engaging with others. You know, if it's commercial work, the leasing agents that you've got to engage with, prospective tenants. If you're working for a national tenant, you've got to engage with them, and the earlier the better. You might have to assist with the marketing information. The client might have a marketing manager. So now you can say to them, okay, I've allowed so many hours for that. You've got to assist with a tenant criteria document. There might be Green Star specialists involved who you've got to engage with. So in a sense, you are now building your own pizza, if I could put it that way. You know, if you go to a Pizza Hut where you order a standard pizza, or they say build your own pizza. Now, ArchiTAD enables you to build your own pizza because you are coming to the client with a proposal based on tasks and deliverables. Then you've got to finalize the concept, you've got to build a model, and you prepare 3Ds. So you advise the client on technical financial aspects, part of work stage 2, advise the client on finishes and specifications, even if it's early, implement client consultant authority input, implement cost control measures, and revise the design if necessary. If by the end of work stage 2, this project is too expensive, then there is work that needs to be done, and you need to allow for that. Issue designs to the QS and the consultants, prepare final concept designs, prepare site development plan, receive consultants' reports. So that's all part of the cluster, which we call concept design. And then under the cluster, which we call time and cost, is receive and evaluate the cost report from the QSs, advise the client on cost and receive instructions, advise client on procurement and contracting methods, revise the project program, conduct preliminary project risk assessments. Risk assessment is something that we are less acquainted with. Normally project managers deal with this, but colleagues, equip yourself with a basic risk assessment tool so that you can, as the project proceeds, that you can actually do the necessary risk assessments so that you don't pick up a problem in work stage 4 that should have been addressed in work stage 2. Now, under administration, which is the standard cluster straight all the way through, agree, change, impact, and record instruction to proceed, prepare the stage report, index and list the drawings. You will have to conduct meetings and minute those meetings. You package the design and the report, present the design and the report, obtain client approval for the work stage, obtain the client's instruction to proceed to the next stage, evaluate internally the time it took for this stage, the cost, and the risk. So what you are continually doing as you work through this as a checklist, you are monitoring the profitability of the project and you're monitoring the risk. Claim and receive payment. And that's important because, you know, essentially what you're saying to the client, oh, I have concluded this stage. Please approve the stage and pay my fee. And that then triggers the following stage. Under principal consultancy, we've listed the items that generally are handled by the principal consultant. We won't do that in detail now. But once again, separate that so that the client can see that there is time and there is a sense, some responsibility attached to being a principal consultant. And then under notes at the bottom here, we've just given an indicative list of what generally could be included in a concept presentation. and local authority submissions. Here you've got the outcomes again, and then there you've got your costing, essentially. How many hours will you spend? What is the cost of that? And then if you don't change anything on the spreadsheet, then it's going to give you the cost for work stage 2, the architectural fee, and the principal consultant fee. And these costs, you will see later, are all transferred across to this summary sheet, which we'll get to a little later. Then under stage 3, we've essentially got the same. We've got the clusters. Once again, don't neglect the brief, because you had a brief in work stage 1. You've got to evaluate and affirm the changes, record changes and the impact on the fees and program. So let's assume that you did a concept. The concept was approved, and now you move on to work stage 3. But there are some changes that have been affected between work stage 2 and 3. You've got to evaluate that, and you've got to cost that, because if you don't, you are working for free as far as those changes are concerned. So under the design development cluster, we've got the brief, we've got a concept design, and once again, it's to evaluate the changes. And then under design development cluster, to develop the design, we've got the develop the design, see BIM implementation, and we've listed all those activities which generally are part of the development of a design. We've also got as a cluster the engagement with the consultants. Under authorities, we've got that engagement with the authorities as and when necessary. Once again, we've introduced engagement with others because we still have the tenants, we still have the Green Star specialist and other input that needs to be considered. Finalize the design. You will then populate that with your detailed activities. Estimate cost and evaluate time. This is something that we include as a cluster because projects go wrong if you don't have this as a specific activity in a project, and you need to be able to cost this aspect of the work. Then under administration, once again, agree changes and impact and record and receive the instruction to proceed. Administer changes, confirm stage report to be issued, conduct minutes again, meetings and minutes, package the design, present the design, obtain the client approval, obtain the client instruction to proceed, evaluate internally, once again, evaluate internally, how you've performed in the stage and how much time have you spent, claim your fee, receive payment. And then the same goes for principal consultant again. And once again, under notes, an indicative list of what would be included in a work stage 3 presentation. Right, then we move on to work stage 4.1. Now 4.1 is documentation and procurement. It consists of, once again, look at the brief. And now we don't look at the concept, but we look at work stage 3 design development for the same reasons. We then prepare documentation. We develop the submission. We engage with the consultants. We engage with authorities. We engage with others. We finalize documentation. We deal with the issue of cost and time. And we administer, and there is an administrative component. And here we have issue approved documents to client for retention, because obviously what's important in Workstage 4.1 is to actually get local authority approval. Then we have, once again, the principal consultancy, the role of the principal consultant, and then under notes, what we've got here is the submission drawings, indicative list of submission drawings. And colleagues, I'm sure that most of you have your own lists, and so you could expand on this. Right, then we move on to Workstage 4.2, which is still documentation and procurement. But there are certain outcomes here that that are different to the other stages. Obviously, construction documentation and issuing of construction documentation is one of the primary outcomes of this stage. So under this stage, we've got our clusters again. And we've got the role of the principal consultant. And then what we've got here, which is maybe interesting, is under notes, we've got indicative procurement and construction drawings. So we've got quite a long list here of which can become a checklist, and you will also have specialist subcontractors, you know, for many of these components that you're dealing with. So you can use this then as a checklist. So when you do your homework and when you do your planning as to how long a project is going to cost you to produce technical documentation, then obviously you need to know what the set of documents will comprise to be able to estimate how many resources you've got to utilize and how long it's going to take you to do the production of those drawings. So that is then the guideline activities, the outcomes, and these then are where you do your calculation, and then all things being equal, you will then see this is going to cost you 74,000 Rand and 39,000 Rand to render this service. Now, under Workstage 5, it is a little more difficult in that it's difficult to actually estimate time that you're going to be spending for each of these activities. And that is also why the suggestion was made, is that you then determine how many resources you're going to be using to render this service, and quote a fee that that will relate more to the time, say per month, than to each of these activities. But we have under the cluster, we have still a documentation component, because there's always in Workstage 5 documentation that's got to be administered, or revisions that have to be produced, or additional information that is required for the contractor to execute certain activities. So there's a documentation component, a cluster. There's the construction of the works cluster. There's the contractual issues and the administration. Just to give you an idea then of the guideline activities that we've included under documentation, just as a broad overarching activity to manage documentation, issuing and updating. Issue construction documentation, the contractor. Prepare site establishment drawings if required. Do you normally do that? Do you cost that separately? Prepare construction sequencing drawings if required. Submit documents to the QS for subcontract procurement. Review subcontract designs and coordinate. Provide information for clarification of details. Revise documentation on instructions or as required. Coordinate revised documentation with consultants. Evaluate change requests. Prepare SAPOA certification drawings. Record changes and impact on cost and program. Record changes and impact on fees and program. Administer BIM protocols. So as you can see, under documentation, Workstage 5, potentially, there's still a lot of work you need to do. So if you think that you don't have to have a resource available for documentation during Workstage 5, then you are mistaken. Construction work. Agree and monitor quality assurance procedures. Attend handover and progress meetings. Attend technical meetings. Prepare progress reports. Attend and report on client management cost meetings. Appraise samples, tests, mock-ups. Respond to design documentation queries from the site. Do beneficial occupation inspections for tenancies. Do sectional completion. Do practical works completion. Prepare practical works completion lists. Receive operational manuals. I think the important principle here is that you can say to your client, I need these resources to run Workstage 5, and these are the things that I'm going to be doing. So if you don't want me to use these resources, which of these guideline activities do I not have to do? Can I omit SAPOA certification? Can I omit recording the changes? It actually enables you then to be able to negotiate the fee or propose a fee for these particular tasks to the client, so that everyone is on the same page as to exactly what you will be doing. So if we move on to Workstage 6, I'm not going to go through Workstage 6 in any detail. You will see here that Workstage 5, we've changed this from principal consultant to principal agent. And these are the aspects which a principal agent should be doing and which under the existing guideline fee, it is expected of you as architect to do. But now what you can do is you can actually separate these activities from these activities, so that if the client does not appoint you as the principal agent, then you are not going to be responsible for these activities. Then under stage 6, colleagues, I don't think it's necessary at this stage to go through it in detail, but you have the same breakdown where you have the architectural professionals' activities and responsibilities and the principal agent's activities and responsibilities. Okay, that brings us then to the summary page. Now, the summary page, we're assuming that we're doing Workstage 0 to 6. It gives you the list of stages here. It then gives you the list of activities or services, and it breaks down each work stage into inception and appraisal and principal consultancy. So if you're not the principal consultant, then the costing in this section will be 0 all along. However, if you are, then you will earn a fee for architectural services and for principal consultancy under stage 1, stage 2, 3, 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.2, 5, and 6. And these, the time for each of these is transferred automatically from the other tabs. and the cost for each of these. For example, now stage 1, the cost for that inception and appraisal, for the 9 hours that will be spent, there's a cost that's been brought over for you and for the principal consultant. And then these all add up, and for each of the resources, you will then end up with a stage 1 fee of 35,000 for architectural services, and 35,000 for being the principal consultant. And for stage 2, that's your fee for architectural services, that's your fee for principal consultant. That then adds up to a fee which then gives you 1.2 million rand. That's what it's actually costing you to render the service. And at this point, if you have not built in a profit component into your hourly rates for your resources, that's where you can then add your profit at the end. You get a total which is exclusive of that. Then this gives you an opportunity for each of these work stages to cost your disbursements, let's say traveling, printing, artwork, and other. And you then discover that your disbursements is actually costing 95,000 Rand. So if you then add that total to the 95, it gives you a sum total which you're proposing to the client. You add that and you get a gross total. But what is important here, and now why, is escalation. Remember, we spoke about escalation. When you are quoting now to render a service, you are assuming that this project is going to cost you, is going to take a year or maybe 2 years, and you're willing to absorb the escalation in your overhead costs and in your staff costs. But if you cannot absorb it, and if it takes longer, then you need to make allowance for escalation. You need to say to your client, you're assuming no escalation for, let's say, for the first 2 years of this project. However, if the project is going to overrun in whatever way, this is how escalation is going to be dealt with. I don't have the answer for that at this stage, but that then is the issue that you've got to deal with. Colleagues, I'm going to stop sharing.
Sorry, Bernard.
Yes.
Yeah. Just quickly do this for me. Check under your toolbar where it says show caption. Because I put it there, but it's not coming through. We want. Yeah.
So must I share again?
Just share. I want you to enable what is called caption. So if you check on your toolbar underneath,
toolbar.
Yes.
On the Zoom toolbar or what?
Yes, on the Zoom toolbar. If you start there, there's a mic, video, participants, chat. Then, are you seeing where it says show caption?
Show caption. Okay, there. I've clicked on show caption.
Yeah, yes, click it.
Okay.
What? Yes.
Okay, I clicked on show caption. So
yeah, tell me what are you seeing there?
At this stage, I'm just seeing a screen with everyone's, shall I say, Mr. Nduku's icon, SACAP icon. I'm just seeing the screen as the Zoom screen without, just with the people on the Zoom screen.
Okay. Maybe when you continue with the presentation, it will show the caption, because the participants actually are are requiring that, particularly those that are deaf. They say they can't hear, but
Oh,
they need caption, yes.
okay. Look, okay. Essentially, the presentation is I
Maybe available. Yes.
presented what I needed or wanted to plan to present. So so I can put the I can put the Excel sheet, a spreadsheet onto the screen again. It
Yes.
all depends on what you'd like me to do. So if I say share, and then I go back, I don't know whether you're seeing my screen now.
Yes, it's beginning. It's showing now. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
No, anyway, what I would do, Praise,
Yes.
on mine, I've enabled transcription on. I will share the notes with the participants there. My apologies for that, because we couldn't enable the caption, but I've got all the transcription as well as the video. We will then forward it to them. My apologies for that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, colleagues. Yeah.
Shall I stop sharing again? What would you like me to do?
Okay. Are you complete, or you want to
I'm
wrap up?
I'm actually complete. Look, you know, to wrap up, you know, all I can say is this is the work we've done. This is a work in progress. As I said, it's not done and dusted. Your input will be important, but we've tried to create a basis for each architectural professional to be able um, to confirm and to understand what the tasks are that he has to do as part of his service. What are the deliverables that will emanate from the work he's doing, and then to enable him to cost that. And as I said, it's not an easy thing for us as professionals to know exactly how much it costs to render a project. But I think what we're trying to do is to take a step forward and saying, well, let's start here and let's utilize this as a tool. And yeah, that in conclusion, thank you.
Yes. Maybe just to I've gone through some of the questions, but the main questions under Q&A is that would this spreadsheet be made available to the professionals, which I think, yes, it should be. Yes, because that is their main question, yeah.
Well, that would be for SACAP to decide.
Yes, it should.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should, because it is meant to assist. Maybe the question, the professional is not, it's a public knowledge, particularly with our professionals. Maybe let's go to, because I've just gone through most of the questions. Yeah, and I think the major one, as I say, is to be able to share the spreadsheet, and also you know, the transcript, or whatever means possible, to make sure that those that are deaf you know, understand the presentation. So Monetsi, our IT person at SACAP, will definitely make sure that the presentation, that information is available for everyone who is a professional. Okay, colleagues, I think yes, that's where we are now, and I think if maybe we can open up now for participants Q&A. Yeah, or maybe before we do that, because it's 22:11. I think let's continue with the Q&A. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. We do have Grant Thomas, then followed by Conrad, Shanae, Quinton James, and Maria
Yeah.
Marlin.
Yes, they can go ahead.
Quinton, you can go ahead.
You're muted, Quinton.
Okay, Maria. Chanel.
Go ahead and ask questions. This is our platform. It's our SACAP. It's our platform. Please feel free to just ask the questions.
Monet, you haven't muted everyone on your side.
Yeah, I give them, they just need to unmute for themselves there.
Okay, Somo is
Soko.
unmuted.
Yeah, Somo.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we
go
can
ahead.
hear you.
Looking at the presentation, I get a sense that it's for large-scale projects. So, as a draftsman, I can only partake in those projects as a consultant under a professional architect or senior technologist, depending on the project. Is it possible to utilize this when doing a residential project or something that falls in the category of a draftsperson?
Most absolutely. President, can I take this one?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Yes, good day, my good colleagues. I'm Leta Vice President at SACAP and convener of this committee. Yes, my good colleague, this whole spreadsheet was created exactly to help even people like yourselves. Because now what you're doing is you're creating an itemized way of billing for all the activities that you do to undertake to do this work. So it's not for specifically big projects and saying that small projects cannot be able to for you to benefit from this, but it's for you to really see how much time are you spending on your work and what are the actual activities. In fact, it might even really just empower you because you'll start to see step by step, item by item, all the work that goes into compiling a project. And then you're able to show it to your client and say, this is what it takes to do a residential house, even if it's a small house, even if you're an architectural drafts person. So that's the idea. I hope that answers you.
And maybe I can just add there
Go for it.
that as I mentioned to you, the Excel spreadsheet can be manipulated. You can hide columns, and you can hide lines. So so if it's just a house or at least an alteration you're doing, you might want to hide and condense that into a much smaller spreadsheet that can still equally be used.
Yes.
Can I have a follow-up question?
Yes, go on.
So in terms of resources, say I've done a residential house for a client, and the same client comes to me with a bigger project. So if I were, would it be possible for me to use the same method because I would be showing the need for a professional architect and other people, engineers, like depending on who I would need on to carry such work? Then would I be acting as a principal agent, or is that allowed to take on such a project and appoint people who are needed in order for the project to be carried out according to the category of work and registrations?
VP,
Yes. Go
perhaps
on,
if I
sir.
can deal with this one, because it
Yes.
deals with IDEO, SOMO as a principle of a practice, and you are a draftsperson, you would need to either do that work in collaboration with a registered professional architect,
Yes.
but using the ArchiTAD to work out your resources, obviously you would include their time allocation, and then determine the cost for the project. And obviously, depending on the complexity of a project, a simple residential dwelling, which is low complexity, would be different from a high complexity project that would require more resources in terms of time, and also more resources in terms of the expertise that would be working on that project. So in short, uh, when you are dealing with projects that fall outside your scope, obviously you are now you're delving in the realm of IDEO, and you need to be careful in terms of when doing work outside your scope, you do that in collaboration with others, or whether you've been exempted to do that work. Yeah, so you can utilize ArchiTAD to determine the cost for various complexities of projects.
Okay, so that means if I take on the risk, I need to take it on with understanding that the idle will affect me. So I need to make sure that the relevant professionals are working as per the idle prescriptions instead of
Yes,
on all of
yeah,
the work depending. Okay, I get you. I get you.
yeah.
All right.
So we need the suitably qualified professional who's going to take professional indemnity and
Yes.
responsibility, take up the risk for that high complexity project. So as a
Yeah.
draftsperson, low complexity projects, you can deal with those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Can I add something? Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Atu.
No, guys, I think you guys have done some really lovely work. I just wanted to find out, do we have any representatives from Competitions Commission or the department in this meeting?
VP, perhaps I can take
Yeah.
this one.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Proceed, President.
Okay. No. At the moment, this is a profession. This is a consultation with the profession. It's internal or the households, or it's within our space as profession. We have not gone out there, so we expect that as a consultation, definitely there will be inputs from professionals, and then when we are ready, definitely this tool will be made available to all our platforms and the public, including the CCSA as well, so that they can see that we have this alternative in terms of calculating our fees. So at the moment, it is our own internal endeavor at the moment in terms of consultation. Thank you.
Oh, okay. No, thanks a lot. It's I think it would be nice if we could have the profession in consultation with bodies like the Competitions Commission and the department, because I do think look, SACAP does a lot of great work, and a lot of times SACAP gets the heat from the professionals. But I do think it's misdirected. So in situations like this, I do think it would be beneficial to have players like the Competitions Commission and the department in an engagement with the entire profession. So in a sense, they can actually feel the heat, which SACAP gets unfairly so sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you, Atu. I think you are correct. I think what we've done, this is a response. Remember, when we negotiated with the CCSA to publish the fee guideline, it was our undertaking that we'll be taking this route, where the fee will be based on the task and deliverable, the resources and the time. Basically, what we're doing now is actually what Competition Commission wanted us to take a direction, you know. So definitely there will be no problem. But of course, yes, we will engage all the you know regulators, government entities, public works, just to know, to let them. In fact, it will be published. Once we agree, we have a full agreement amongst ourselves as a profession, then it will be gazetted as an annexure or an addition to the current fee guideline gazette. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, President. That sounds perfect. And I think if possible, I know it's a big ask, but if possible, will we be able to, I guess, are there ways to make to make it more than a guideline, but something enforceable, because it becomes difficult when it's not enforceable, because we end up dealing with the same problems again. So I don't know, perhaps Pres or Deputy Pres, maybe you can just educate me on what possibilities there are to not just have this amazing guideline, but to have mechanisms to make it enforceable.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes, I do. Can I maybe call on Registrar to come in there, because that with the legal mind, and also advise on that issue. Registrar, can you just advise on that?
No, thanks, Press, and greetings to Shai there. So you'd recall that under the 1970 legislation, the publication of fees was compulsory, and everybody had to comply with that. But I think when the current legislation was then promulgated in 2000, already the competition policy in the country had already changed. And therefore, that's why then the current legislation had to align itself with the current competition policy, which does not allow minimum or mandatory fees. So it's something very, very difficult, because it does not only impact our legislation, but it impacts the entire economic policies of the country, as well as the competition policies of the country. So it's not going to be an easy thing, but it's something that I think as SACAP we can start discussions around, given the fact that the market is still in infancy and is still developing, and a lot of members of the public still need a lot of guidance, because they don't understand the service offered by professionals, and sometimes they are not even prepared to pay for all the work that is done. A lot of work, by the way. So it's something that I think it can be taken forward by SACAP to the department, because I know that Arab professional councils now have started engaging in terms of reviewing their legislation. So it's something that we will take forward when we ask that the current legislation be reviewed to align with the current conditions in the country. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, we got that. Also, another thing is that SACAP had signed an MOU with the Competitions Commission, meaning that there is already a relationship on the table that enables us to communicate a bit more regularly. I think it is quarterly. I can't remember what the registrar had said. So also another thing is that with this document that has been created, this spreadsheet, yes, it will possibly go into something that can be manipulable on our website, and it might be gazetted. The only thing is that we cannot put, it won't have rates, because that's where the price fixing might come in, and then we might get in trouble for. So it ends up going back to the fact that each and every single professional or every single office will be able to input their own rates. But then we're creating the timetable almost as a template of this is what happens or could be happening in a typical office for a typical project. Yes.
It's Abi, can I just make a comment there while you're talking about the rates? One of the questions that came through is, are the rates that inserted, are they hourly rates or daily rates? And that essentially depends on the person who's utilizing the tool. You might want to use hourly rates and then insert hours for the activities. Or equally, you might decide to, let's make it a daily rate and then just allocate days, working days. Just wanted to clarify that based on one of the questions. Thanks.
It's me speaking here. I've just got a question. Oh, sorry. Go for it. I think someone spoke already.
Sorry. Good morning. You're speaking to Curtis. I just wanted to thank you for putting the time together to actually create this spreadsheet. And I wanted to find out from the SACAP Council if it is possible to incorporate some of these ideas into the professional fee schedule for the existing framework, especially relating to stage 0, the pre-inception, because a lot of time from our practice is also doing that initial consultation with potential clients, and that becomes a large resource sink with developing briefs, putting together projects, and actually taking that time to meet with clients.
Yes, definitely. Definitely that input will be taken into consideration. Thank you.
And then, sorry, just a follow up on that, if I may. I'd also appreciate the fact that these roles of the architect, the principal consultant additional roles, as well as the principal agent additional roles between stage 1 and 4.1 and 4.2 to stage 6 have been split. Is there a way that concept could also be incorporated into the currently gazetted framework, as because from our experience, a lot of times a client might expect you to fulfill the role of the principal consultant without having appointed you for that within the so we say pre-council stage.
Yeah, thank you, Curtis. Those figures have been included in the current guideline professional fees gazette. There's also an inclusion of alterations and additions that are 30% increase if you're doing alterations. If you're a principal agent, there's a percentage which is which accounts for that additional work. Principal agent or principal consultant, those fees have been included. Some government departments in their contractual documents, they do account for those additional fees.
Yes,
So
as well as escalations. But I think when it comes through to your residential, I think that big hole on the escalations with the potential retainer is something that I don't know. Perhaps I've missed it, but I feel it is missing from the standard.
which aspect in particular, Curtis? So we noted.
Just with regards to escalations where projects take longer than initially expected within the construction phase, and then also within the closeout during stage 6, when the responsibility falls to the principal agent to actually arrange for all of the inspections and the occupation certificates and the closeout on that contract documentation.
Yeah, okay. So you are referring to extended construction period and the
Yes,
fees?
yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Curtis. We'll look into that. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's Nico speaking here. I just want to extend my appreciation to SACAP and Eugene. This was very informative, especially this at least breaks down what the architect actually does in its entirety, because sometimes clients do not understand the amount of work that goes into the work we do. So I just have a question regarding building rates. There's an ACOM guide that we have in our office that has been issued as a fees guideline for different regions and different complexities. These are basically determined to, they help to determine the building construction fee, and then that gets broken down into the construction, the consultation fees as well. So I just want to check, when we calculate projects based on building rates, is ACOM a good reference for that, or is there one that's prescribed by SACAP?
You mean the rates? Do we have rates set out somewhere?
Yes, so there's an ACOM guide that, for example, if we're doing a residential house, we basically have, let's say, for example, the building rate in Western Cape is 8,500 for a residential building, which is medium complexity. Then would say 8,500 multiplied by the square meter of the proposed new dwelling, and then that's how we basically break down the fees. Is there a standard from SACAP, or can we actually use the ACOM guideline?
You are free to use whatever guideline you have, but if you look at the current fee guideline, there are rates that are actually populated there for for our resources. You can use that rate. There is also there are also another rates that are actually published annually by DPW. You can also use those rates. You can also use whatever rate, like the ECOM, the one that you're mentioning. You can use whatever rate you think it will actually make your practice profitable. So you can, this is a guide. So hence, Eugene was saying that those rates that he entered there were just for the exercise purpose, not necessarily the rates that must be applicable to any practices. So different practice have different rates. So you use your own rates that are relevant, will enable you to make profit. Thank you.
Thank you. Another question that I have is, we are dealing with clients that sort of put projects on hold for 2 to 3 or 5 years even, and then come back later on to continue the project now that there's money. How do we go about handling that, knowing that in 2012 we sort of charged the client this amount, but because now we're in 2026, how do we recalculate that? How do we work around that, if you may?
Can I maybe come in here? I think it's important if you prepare a proposal for a client that you time bar it. This proposal is valid for, say, 3 months or whatever you feel comfortable with. Because if you leave it open-ended, you're exposing yourself. So it would be subject to renegotiation if after 3 months they come back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Good morning. Can I proceed? It's very hard to see
Yes,
who's...
proceed, Mfundo.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good morning, and thank you for the presentation and all of the hard work that has gone into preparing it and where we are currently. I think it bodes well for the profession, because with the transparency that we are going to be showcasing to prospective clients or to our clients, it is also going to be quite useful to practices to establish margins, profit margins, and all of that. So my two questions is, the previous speakers have covered some of the queries that I had, but I know that clients are using the multidisciplinary, public sector clients are using the multidisciplinary approach, and I'm wondering if that the team has looked at that, and how would this fit into that multidisciplinary setup. And then the second one is, what are the foreseeable challenges that the team has possibly has possibly flagged in terms of implementing this ArchiTAD? Thank you.
Please clarify what multidisciplinary setup is.
So especially some of the departments like Public Works, they would appoint a team as a consortium, and then the architect is not just the standalone discipline, but as part of an entire collective team. Does that clarify it? So I'm just wondering if the team has looked at that, and how would this play into that scenario?
Yeah. Yes, so we have looked at that, and most of those projects are cost-based. ArchiTAD would assist you to clarify or make it simpler between you and your clients, so that there's transparency and fairness in terms of showing the task deliverables as per stage of a construction project. Cost-based fees are different because they look at the percentage, and at times there's quite a lot of disputes because professionals would require a lot of extensive time to deal with high complexity projects. And ArchiTAD really assists you to demonstrate to your clients the time and resources required to deal with different complexity projects. So in terms of how we'll deal with public sector and multidisciplinary setups, the current professional fees guideline as per Gazette would be applicable, where a cost-based fee would be utilized. As indicated earlier by my colleagues, this is a consultation process. We are undertaking this endeavor so that we can identify any foreseeable challenges or issues as highlighted by yourselves, the profession. So we are, optimistic about ArchiTAD and really are looking at contributions and inputs from yourselves so that we can identify gaps or any challenges and deal with them. Okay. I hope that clarifies.
Yeah. Maybe to add on what Councillor Pailane just mentioned. I think this system works, to be quite honest, I mean, even with the other disciplines, because it's all about the resources, the rates applicable to those resources, and the time, and then the total at the end of the day of how many, the engineer, as a consortium, definitely you are given a month to prepare a submission for your tender, and then each discipline goes out and calculate their cost, their percentage, their cost, that contribution to the consortium. And the way I see it, because where as architectural professionals we lack is that we tend to take a backseat and then allow other disciplines to take over. I think we can probably, I'm not saying we should give this to them, but I think we should use our tools to actually take ourselves, position ourselves to the front, because we are the front, we lead, nothing can happen before architects do anything. So we can actually create that scenario where you can dictate or tell other consultants that they need to submit their information, and then you can actually add. Let's say, for an example, you can add whatever, you can manipulate this, but it should be our own advantage over other disciplines. Definitely, sure. But what is important is they must calculate their time, cost, and resources, and then we calculate ours, and then we put together the information as a consortium, and then we submit. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity, and really thank you for this work that's been done. I think this is a fantastic move going forward. Our understanding is that ArchiTAD will help to define a clearer scope for what deliverables we as professionals can provide. So this will go a long way in for clients to be able to compare prices when they're looking at services of different practices or different architects. So my question is, for engagement with a competitions commission, this will help a lot in terms of transparency and fairness. Has SACAP also considered engaging with financiers of bigger projects, developers maybe, to help them to understand what the risks are in exclusions of certain services or underscoping of certain services, and how that creates risk for them as the financiers of projects?
Robert, as indicated earlier, at this stage we are consulting, and obviously we'll take into account your advice in engaging others like financiers to identify the risks associated with guideline professional fees. It's not something we have thought of yet, because if you look at our act, we are guided to consult with a profession, CBE, Competition Commission SA, and our stakeholders. We will certainly engage in our committee and see how best we can consult with those and have a clearer and fair, transparent mechanism to deal with professional fees.
That's fantastic to hear. We find it a big issue in our practice when competing with other consultants on big projects, to be able to explain to clients what exactly the services are that they are getting and what's being excluded when they're comparing our fees with others. So I think this will go a very long way in helping us as professionals to strengthen our own fee proposals and position us correctly in that sort of sphere of our profession.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks. No, you said it well, Robert, there, where you say it's going to be a tool that's going to help within the office, because it really just it becomes a long list that is an explanatory step-by-step items of what is going to be happening on this project. And the nice thing is that it's there, it's on the table. You could even be able to put it in as part of your signed agreement with the client. And and also it gives you the power, if they are saying, yes, let's shave off here, let's shave off here, let's shave off here, you're able to say, well, you can see you're going to remain with a building with no foundations, you know, and just making a joke. Or do you want to leave out the ceiling or what? How much of the foundation do you want? But that's just adding humor into it. But it also helps you to see what could be the skeletal services that you cannot be without, or you're able to say, look, you don't have a building after all of this shaving to a client. And also the reason why we also created this, we thought about what actually happens to a new architectural practitioner that has finished school, has written the professional board exam, and is now ready to start their own office. How do they know what is the actual cost of doing work? I mean, we all know when we started out, we've made huge mistakes. So you felt like now you're just doing work for free because you charged very thin. But those are school fees that we have paid. We don't need young people to continue to pay that going forward, because in any case, those low chargings are the ones that bring the general charging guideline in society down. So that list becomes something on the table that you say, well, if we have lost 72%, I mean, if we have taken out, take for example, 22% of this list here and then there, you can see it already tells you your project is at risk. It's not going to work. So that's what it is. Thanks,
Robert. And I agree with you fully, and I think that's a fantastic thing to put on the table, to be able to explain to whoever's doing the funding that there's real risk in appointing someone who has significantly reduced their scope or their fees, and a consultant can easily end up in a position where they literally cannot afford to provide a good service because they have underquoted.
Exactly.
So I'm very excited about what you've done here.
No, I look forward to using it more as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Go on.
Yes, I'd like to say a few things. I think there are a few things that we often don't talk about in these kinds of environments. So I hope you guys will bear with me a little bit if I can just outline that. So first of all, thanks to Eugene and you guys as a team for presenting this and putting it together. It's it seems to be an exceptional tool to be able to sort of accurately prepare proposals and fees to kind of assist in justifying your fees and obviously to provide some ongoing measurement. So that's my little summary of the tool as a whole, and I think it's a wonderful tool as far as that is concerned. The second thing, though, is sort of always the elephant in the room, and one of the other gentlemen mentioned the sort of protection of fees. And I think the reality is, as an industry, there is substantial discounts, okay, that are being required by the industry just from a survival perspective. So we have this continuous challenge between looking for prescribed fees like we used to have, and the Competition Commission saying, look, you need to not actually have protected rates. But what I'm particularly interested in, and I'd like to know whether you guys as a team have done any research in, is the sustainability of that. So in other words, do you want to actually have an architectural profession in 10 years' time? There's lots of data, and in quite a few places overseas, suggesting that professional architects are earning about the equivalent of a retail store manager, which means you have significant training both at university level and in the field before you can provide detailed professional service, but you can't sustain a reasonable fee to be able to deal that. So I would be very interested to see if you guys have done any research to find out how the medical profession and how the legal profession are able to hold the line in terms of fees. And they seem to be able to do that fairly well, but I don't know if any research has been done into that in as far as it applies to the industry. The second thing is, and it goes to sustainability and competition, and where you don't see the Competition Commission very active, is in protecting South African industry professionals from being absolutely hammered by CAD software providers and all the tools that you need in order to undertake your profession. They charge what they charge, and kind of you have to factor that into your fees. But so you've got massively increasing costs, okay, but an inability to be able to actually, in real terms, collect a reasonable fee for the work that you have to do. And I'd be very interested to understand, how our industry is looking into that. And then lastly, you have the associated risk that exists for providing discounted fees and very little protections to the professionals in the industry doing that. So I know that's a long-winded thing. I hope it makes sense, but I would be very interested to hear your comments.
Yeah, maybe let me start off by maybe looking at the other, professional architects or the professionals on the other side of the globe. We have just entered into an MRA with the US, and we're about to enter into another one with the UK. And yeah, unfortunately, they look at South Africa, and they admire the fact that we are still publishing the fee guidelines. Some of those, professions, or maybe, regulatory bodies, in those countries don't even publish fee guideline. It's actually they just cost fees or charge fees as they believe it is to be. But because those are the first world countries, but we are a third world country. And the reason why we have fees, it is actually in our policies. I mean, it is embedded in the policies of the Act. Why are we charging? We have to publish the fee guideline because of the so-called information asymmetry, that you are dealing with the public that does not know what we're doing in terms of the knowledge, and then it's difficult for them to understand the way we cost. Hence, our Act requires that we publish. So they are the first world countries. They've gone past that stage where the public has a better understanding of the profession than this one of us. So whenever we meet and engage, we always establish ourselves relative to where they are in the evolution and with our where we are. So we remain a third world country. Yes, of course, we aspire to be. I think the situation will eventually lead us to there if we get to that stage. So some yes do, some don't, but it's quite a complex situation, and it depends on the competition laws of each country. So what happens here in South Africa is not necessarily what is happening abroad. I think that is the first one. In terms of the sustainability, the reason why we're making all these efforts that we're making at the moment to look into this alternative method of charging fees is purely on the sustainability issue. That it's easy with the current project-based fee guideline to easily jump onto a percentage as far as the discount is concerned. But with this one, because now you have a tool that will explain each and every deliverable that activity and a deliverable to the client, and then it gives you a better negotiation tool or platform to say, okay, here are the activities that I'll be undertaking in stage 2, for an example. So you are asking for a discount. If you look at this, which of these do you think probably of these activities I should take out? So to get, or maybe you can just simply do that on your own, and then you present, you said, okay, you wanted 10% or 20% discount. So for me to achieve that, I've taken out activity 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that's what you get. Are you sure that you don't want me to probably consult with the municipality, or you don't want me to do ABCD? So it is a tool that is trying to address the sustainability, the equivalence of your discount with your activity and the deliverable. So that's what, and in fact, as much as SACAP is trying to actually assist, I think as a profession, I think we need to put our heads together. Hence, we are here today to consult so that the minds of the profession can add onto this, so that we can actually close ranks and protect our profession and make it sustainable. Thank you.
Yeah. So sorry.
Yes. Go on.
So that's my point. We have other professions that seem to be able to hold reasonable fees for the service they deliver. And my contention is that we have lost that line in our profession. In other words, we are predominantly working on an unsustainable income structure because of industry pressure. And I mean, you know, when I say industry pressure, I mean, if there is work out there and developers and or corporate clients, etc., are looking to do work, they are demanding fees at heavily discounted rates. And so the question is, why is it just our professional industry that seems to be under that kind of pressure? Lawyers don't seem to be, doctors don't seem to be, accountants don't seem to be. So we seem to be engineering and architects under a different kind of pressure. Some of those wounds to the industry are self-inflicted because I guess we've broken ranks and bigger practices are happy to discount substantially to secure ongoing work from big developers, but it leaves smaller practices exposed to similar discount structures. So my point is exactly that. And then the second item or the third, the Competition Commission doing to protect the industry from having to pay exorbitant fees for software in our small little pond?
Not part of this discussion.
Yes, Robert, did you want time to answer
Yeah,
that?
Are you
thank
finished?
Yes. Yes. Sorry, guys. I hope I haven't confused the issue.
Yes.
Andy, yeah, if I can maybe comment on that.
Okay.
I've done a bit of research on this, Andy, and your comparison to the medical professionals is something that I targeted exactly. The reason I found was that for healthcare, there are central payers, so they have reference tariffs that for all standard procedures, and we don't have that in construction. So this ArchiTAD exercise will help us to define very clear baseline services, and it's very detailed. So it'll be a lot easier for whoever's funding the work to actually compare apples with apples. And then if they can understand these definitions and these very specific tasks and deliverables, and they start excluding certain services or the client or the consultants under scope or under charge for their services, then it becomes a real risk for whoever is doing the funding. So the risk moves there, and the responsibility to ensure that the professionals appointed for a project can actually deliver the work becomes a consideration of whoever's paying for that service. And that keeps the competition factor in practice, because then you can still compare fees on an apples to apples basis, which I think is great and very transparent. And the real issue with getting this into practice was that we do not have those very specific deliverables identified or defined. So this ArchiTAD will definitely help a lot with that, I think.
Robert,
Yes, I mean, look,
sorry.
Sorry.
No, I just wanted to add or pose a question to the SACAP Council on the basis of the discussion of Andy and Robert at the moment. I know that there's if we sort of bring that back a little bit, there's the scope of works which has been very clarified of late, so particularly what you can do. Is there a way in which SACAP can engage with city councils or municipal councils to urge them to enforce that scope of work? Because I've worked with many municipalities and councils across the country, and some of them enforce it and others don't. And to have a baseline on the scope of works would make that more fair, because there's no point in having an RPL or being able to practice in other categories for scope of works if that is not being enforced. You know, if that's those different council or those different bodies that sort of manage the fee within the medical council have an enforcement, and if the councils and municipalities enforce that scope of work, it should over time be able to ease that discrepancy.
Mm. Yeah. No, you are quite correct that you know, we are working with the municipalities, and we are signing MOUs with some of the municipalities. But what is important is that what we found is that there's a lot of entities that are involved, you know, that we have to talk to, that are actually, how can I say, have an impact or legislative impact on the operation of the municipalities. I know that where we get problems is at the municipalities, but there are also other bodies that are also in the or stakeholders in the same space, or that are affecting the legislation, or even are the initiators of those legislation. That's where we have already started consultations with these bodies. And the problem is it's very difficult to consult them one by one. You have to get them under one roof. That is what we are actually aiming at, to get all of them under one roof, so that we can actually have an understanding of everyone, or reach some kind of common understanding as to how we can work together to make sure that the ecosystem of the infrastructure delivery in our country is efficient, because it's all about the efficiency. But for that, they don't understand that you have to work together, we have to collaborate for the ecosystem to work together. So that is a huge task that we are busy with. Remember, unfortunately, it needs a lot of a roadshow. We are trying our best, but of course, resources are always limited, to be able to do that. But what we are aiming at the moment is to have everyone under one roof, and then we put our problems as a profession, and then so that whoever is responsible for that, because we've done that fact-finding mission, and then we realize that one problem sits with the DILDRAT, the other sit with trade and industry council, and others sit with other stakeholder, and blah 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 blah. So it's very difficult. That is why I'm saying we are aiming at putting everyone under one roof, so that we can put our challenges on the table as a profession, and then try and solve the problem, because it affects the infrastructure delivery in this country at the moment. And I think each and everyone is interested to make sure that we are very efficient when it comes to the infrastructure delivery. Thank you. As a country.
Can I quickly ask a question?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I just because we keep getting a bit sidetracked away from the central part of this discussion, which is about the fee calculator. So I just wanted to say, firstly, in my courses, I've been advocating for this a long time, and I just wanted to say to SACAP and to Eugene that I think what you've done is extremely well conceived and extremely well executed. And I'm really pleased to see it. It just warms my heart that obviously our regulators have kind of, listened and come on board. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. And it's a really great job. And I can see that an enormous amount of effort has gone into making it pretty watertight. My question is, will the client architect agreements that are issued by SACAP and SIA, for example, are they going to be adjusted to basically represent this method of fee calculation in a way that we can use it more easily? That's my question.
Yes, as we said, this is a workshop. We're soliciting ideas from the profession. Your ideas are very much important. At the end, I think now this is a webinar. There will definitely be a session. I mean, when you go out, you will think and we will accept even correspondence from everyone in the profession so that all these ideas can be taken into consideration. Definitely, it will lead to some kind of adjustments in all the documents that we work with at SACAP. Thank you.
Yeah,
No, thank you.
perhaps just to add the press, thank you, Richard, for the praises and the work we are doing at SACAP. Just to add, we are going to include ArchiTAD in the client architect agreement so that when you are engaging prospective clients, homeowners, and other commercial clients, it's clearly visible, transparent, and it's fair to everyone that these are the tasks that you are going to be undertaking, the resources that you will be investing in the project, and the time allocated. And that will then determine your costing. So we want to make it as open and clear and transparent to every party contracting in a contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Just, my basic principle, which I try and bring through in all of my workshops is what I call cost and catch. I need a fee proposal that if I put it on the table, my clients will agree to it. And I think if it's based in a cost, like any other business, if it's based on cost, it makes it a lot easier to sell. That's what I never liked about the ad valorem method. And the second one is a more important one with the cost and catch principle is to do with our fee agreements. We need a fee agreement that our clients don't need a lawyer to look through, that we can sit in a coffee shop and they can sign it in front of us. And I kind of feel that, we've got the first part of this problem solved with this sort of way of working out how we charge for our service now. And it's equitable. It gives everybody a fair chance, and it shows our clients what they're getting for the money, which I think is extremely powerful. And it would be nice if it could be backed up with a fee proposal that I can sign in a coffee shop so that the guy's happy and he wants to sign it there and then. And so that's just kind of where my question is couched. But this first part is just absolutely brilliant. And I'm really thrilled. And I think you guys have done a magnificent job. So thank you.
Oh, exceptional.
Well, thank you so much, my good colleague, for that comment. I do know that you also you participate in CPDs where you're leading certain CPDs. So that coming from you speaks a lot. It speaks volumes for our profession. On this committee, there are actual practitioners that also sit on this committee. President is a full-time practitioner. I'm a full-time practitioner. Councillor Busi is an architect, and then we have others. So we are inherently aware of the issues that take place at our own desks, and then we look across to see what the Act says and what we can do in order to bring some relief and information to the profession, as well as helping their clients. So that's the objective. But I really appreciate your words. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we take
good
other
afternoon.
questions?
Can I come through?
Yes, come through, Sakura.
Okay, thanks for all the comments and all the colleagues on the line. I'm glad that the president raises the issue of the ecosystem, the infrastructure ecosystem. As we would all understand that our profession is most likely the leading profession on most of these projects. However, it doesn't have the biggest share or biggest chunk in terms of infrastructure projects. I would like to bring that discussion maybe for another day, or maybe just for people to look back into that. But if you look at the amount of work that is given out, I stand to be corrected, but I don't think there's a lot of architectural work that is given out in comparison to civil works, civil and mostly the projects that go out from the government departments or the government portals. And because of that, it creates an ecosystem, particularly in the architectural profession, where we've got a little bit of a shortage of work that is being dished out from the government to the architects, to such an extent that if you're looking at human settlements, you find that there's these setups where we've got 10 key projects, where you cannot even price the amount of work that you're going to be doing there based on fees that are reasonable, because it tends to be too expensive for the main contractor and da. So I'm just bringing this so that we've got a foot to stand on when we have discussions with entities like the Competition Commission, where we are putting across arguments. Our profession is not the same as others. Others are self-approving professions, and work comes to their desk. Architect has done his work, and then drawings are pushed on to the engineer. Sometimes they don't even travel to get out of their offices, and then they get the work done. We have to go and do the as-builds. Everyone waits for the architects to do this. Architect, we haven't received this, and everyone is leeching off the work of the architect, not in a bad way, but everyone is leeching off the work of an architect so that they can get their stuff going. That's the rest of the engineers. And those guys are not bothered about the delays from the municipality approvals and all of those things, because they can sign off their drawings from their offices, and those drawings are legal and are able to get the work done. So I'm just bringing all this baggage to say, if possible, the SACAP needs to pull all of this baggage and put all of these cards on the table to say, the Council Commission, we do understand where you guys are coming from. You want to save the market. But at the same time, I know my colleague here had already mentioned it, Andy was talking about, we are the only, perhaps, it was a it is, or perhaps it was a noble profession, but now we're scrambling for fees, and everyone is trying to race to the bottom of the barrel where they can fetch some work, and the fees keep going lower and lower and lower, and it's not sustainable for the future for us as practitioners in this space. There are architectural draftsmen, there are professional architects. On the gap in between those, everyone is trying to race to get some work, but because we are unable to cap and give a limit or a guidance to the market as to what our value is in initiating, starting, and getting projects, especially in infrastructure delivery, is we find ourselves now all racing to the bottom of the barrel to try and get the work at the lowest fees possible, just to secure something. One other thing I would like the SACAP to do is to actually do an evaluation of how much work people have on their desks, to figure out how much people are paying for software, and also how much can people afford to keep employees. You find that people have got employees that they can employ for 2 to 3 months. 2 to 3 months. It's almost not sustainable for us to be keeping employees for the long term, for a year, for 2 years, because of the amount of work that we have. And it's shrinking day by day. And you find that we have this battle. Meanwhile, the Competition Commission goes on to put us in the same basket as other professionals. So I'm just hoping that this equips the SACAP as they go forward with this, to pursue and find us on a platform where we can have somewhat of a guideline that assists the industry to be sustainable for architectural practitioners. Thank you.
My colleague Takura. I'm going to tell you now from the perspective of a full-time practitioner. And I've been an architect now for about 16 years. So I've also grown from having junior thoughts. When I say junior thoughts, I'm talking about naive thoughts about charging. It's simply as that. The more you charge, the better and more sustainable your practice is. You just have to. You just have to. And unfortunately, if we are going to be communicating the narrative back to ourselves that we are going lesser and lesser and lesser, scrambling for the bottom of the barrel, that's exactly where you are going to go. And also, we got to also remember not every client is meant to be your client. It's about your values and the kind of work you want to do and how you want to sleep at night. So it is really vital that you have to put value to your work, and sometimes just got to let some people walk if they just cannot, if they say they're not going to pay you for the fees that you're going to be charging. But also similarly, our output has to match the work. I mean, in my practice, if I put out my fee scheme, my fee proposal, by the time I come with my drawings, I won't come with just one A1 sheet for a house. I'm going to show up there with 20 sheets so that you actually see what it is that you are paying for. But that's because even on those sheets are those levels of details. And then you see that the client starts to change and the dynamic says, oh, so that's why your fees are like this. It's because you are doing X, Y, and Z. So we got to do that output in order to also be able to substantiate our fees. And then just one thing, if I may, every 2 years, SACAP embarks on the professional fees survey. And that survey is the one that captures the information of how much projects each firm is getting and how much are they charging, what could be profitable, what are the licenses. So there's a survey and it's sitting here on the SACAP websites. We put that information out. You can actually see what the practices are paying their staff and what their profits are, how long are they holding on to these projects. So it's quite a comprehensive document. And then one other thing about what is helpful with this way of task-based fees is that you now have two possibilities of how to charge your fees. You have the ad valorem, which has been there for a while. And by the way, that ad valorem every year and through the survey, it encompasses the cost of doing work, meaning your profits, your professional, what is this? All your licenses and your tools. Now, what you can do, which is also clever, is that after you've done your task-based schedule, you can also look at what your totals are, and then you can go and look at it against the ad valorem, or you can start at the ad valorem and then you can go back into populating your list. But right now, as we are still in a transition phase, I don't know whether the one will phase out the other one. But for the time being, you're able to use both in order for the other one to check the other one, or you use it in order to feel a bit more secure, or whether do you feel that you have either overloaded the project or you have underloaded it. So these are just tools to help us in our offices. But Takura, the profession has to charge. It's just what it is. It's just what it is. Thanks.
I totally agree. I hope my sentiments were not taken wrongly. I'm just coming to the same sentiment that we need to charge appropriately. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Never taken wrongly. It's just that I'm as passionate as you are as a practitioner, and I just want us to all win, myself included, and you. Thanks, my colleague.
May I make a comment?
Yes, Robert.
Sabisa and Takura, I love what you guys are saying. And it's fantastic to hear the alignment from all the professionals on this meeting with what SACAP is trying to look at. I just want to go back to something that was discussed a bit in the comments. The issue of regulating fees is very difficult, and it does go against what the Competition Commission is involved in. And I think you hinted at that before as well when engaging with councils from other countries. It is kind of something that is being phased out to have standard fees in the architectural profession, but to rather have an open market where anyone can ask or quote whatever they can do. So I just want to go back to maybe how that's enforced. And I can't see within any legal structure how any municipality can enforce specific fees to be charged on projects that get submitted to that specific council. I don't see how any sort of body can actually commit to enforcing those fees and how it would be policed in a sense. I also can't really understand that, but what I do understand is that for any person who's funding a project, there is real risk. There's a real risk in funding a project where the consultants have underquoted immensely, which happens a lot. And we find it everywhere where we are competing with other practices that have submitted fee proposals that just does not make sense. It cannot be feasible if you look at what they are proposing for their fees. So I think what ArchiTAD will do is it will go a very long way in helping other people in our industry understand what exactly the services is that we provide. So if you can specifically say, I'm going to do 800 specific tasks as part of this appointment, and this is what I'm going to charge for it. The next guy can come and say, okay, I'm also going to do these 800, but for a smaller fee. Or that you can come to the table and say, but I'm only going to do 400 out of these. If you only want to pay me half of what I can earn, then I'm only going to deliver half of the scope. And that's where the real risk comes in, because the professionals are appointed to have a specific role in this process. And if they're not going to be paid for it, they're not going to be able to provide that service. So there's a risk involved for whoever is paying. And I think having clearer definitions of what it is that we actually do is going to help a lot for everyone else to understand what our role is within the bigger process. So I just want to again ask SACAP, when engaging with other bodies about this, I think it's super important to understand how funding institutions approach project viability, and to have our set of services aligned with whatever they are looking at, so that it's easy for a bank maybe to understand exactly what our function is within that project, so that they know that if they only got to pay for half of the service, there is risks that will need to be handled by someone else if the architect is not going to do the work. That's it.
Thank you very much. It's more of comments than the questions, but and also advisory at the same time, because this is what we want. There is a long queue on the on the Q&A, and we will not be able to actually run through all of this. And the team is going to save all of the Q&A questions, and they are all relevant. They are all important, and actually, those questions are actually opening up the minds or our minds of everyone of issues or elements that we need to think about and include into this tool. But as a starter tool, if you want to call it, as a basic tool, it is there, and then you can actually augment it by making it specific to your own practice, and add this element that you think is good for you. Because at the end of the day, it's like our approach, our principle should be to actually take the risk away from us as professionals. And I don't want to say let's put it back to the clients, but let us take it away from us. If we can come up with the tools that are reducing risks and sustainability, uh, in our professional or our profession, and take it away from us, and by creating these tools without having to contravene the Competitions Act and all of that. I think that's what we should be striving for. And I hear that, I mean, even your comments, some of you have started looking into that. I think that's what will actually make this profession to be, how can I say, better or more sustainable than other professions. Of course, it's very difficult to understand why there seem to be a concerted effort to target this profession, in huge discounts. We're expected to discount. I mean, we get queries from the professionals about clients that are actually expecting, or not wanting to pay for the services of our professionals. But I think as we go, as we have this, it's one of the tools that we will definitely use to empower us or to entrench our position as the leaders in the value chain of infrastructure delivery systems. And I think that's the bottom, and I think that's what we need to really think about all the time, whatever comes across your mind when you have solved a particular problem that actually helped your practice to be more profitable. Please share that information with us so that we can actually help our profession to actually be more sustainable and lead better, because we are not we are the leaders, because no one can do anything without us having started or conceived the concept, the how this project is going to look like, and all of the other things. So we are very important. I mean, it's just that now we need to create tools that will actually help us enforce our position more, and then fight this how can I say, unfair or the unfairness towards the profession, because we are expected to discount so many or so much, because they think that if you look at the cost of the entire team in a project, of course we have to have a larger percentage, a chunk, because we are doing most of the work. Everyone has to take a cue from our professionals, and I think we need to put more effort to try and protect that space, as much as we are a regulator, but at the same time we want to regulate a profession that is sustainable. And then I think for that to happen, I think all of us, I think we need to contribute in such a way that even if the legislation comes in, I think we remain afloat, and probably reach those levels where other fraternities, like your lawyers or health or whatever, are cautioned by the way they do things. So that's where we should our focus or our fight should be as a profession to make sure that whatever we do, it enhances our profession. It confirms our profession. We must not only be the leaders in the service, but when it comes to the remuneration, we are not considered the leaders. No one is prepared to pay what we deserve. So that is the agenda that we need to we always put in front of us, and we must not be apologetic about what we're worth. We are worth what we are charging. And then I think that's what the effort that we need to work towards. Colleagues, I don't know if there should be some other questions, maybe a few questions so that we can wrap up and then address all the questions. At the moment, we have about 99 questions on Q&A. That will be very difficult to go through. As I said, all of this will be recorded, downloaded, and then we will try to respond to each and every question. Colleagues, you can go ahead if you still need some more engagement.
Charles, can I just make a point?
Yes, Eugene, go ahead, Eugene.
I just want to make a point. I've had a look at the questions. There are a few, but I think you're quite right. Let's deal with them after the workshop. Just I think what SACAP will then just decide. First of all, is how to disseminate the spreadsheet or the information, the presentation to the architectural fraternity. And then secondly, this being a workshop, it would be good to invite comments and set a timeline, a target date, so that we can receive the comments, so that we can then introduce or revise or consider them in a document which then can be put out. For the moment, this is just a draft document.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Good morning. My name's Brian von Ruben. I'm actually lecturing in professional practice at UCT, and I just thought it might be useful to kind of look at it from the lens of young people entering into the profession as well. There's kind of 2 points that I think need to be made to remind everybody, which is that SACAP's position or sort of primary objective is to protect the public. SACAP is not there to, I think the word is kind of protect the profession. And I think that it's an important distinction to make because the tool, what I'm seeing with the comments that are coming through and the discussion that's happening is that the tool seems to have 2 primary purposes. One is to clarify what an architect is providing in their service, which is kind of presumably to increase parity in terms of or understanding of parity between the different offers that are provided by different architects. But the second purpose seems to be to help architects to run a sustainable business practice. And I'm not entirely sure if they should be one and the same thing. And I simply put that out as an idea or as a question to ponder, simply because if the tool that you are wanting to propose needs to have one primary objective, I would have thought that needs to align with the primary objective of where it's coming from. So if the primary objective is to protect the public, I think we can kind of carry that logic through and say that the public needs to be protected from unsafe working practices. And if safety of the public is a priority, then I'm not sure how engagement with that tool can be voluntary. So I'm simply in the same way that we have building regulations that provide for mandatory safety to protect the public. It seems to me that there need to be mandatory requirements in the same way for any tool that claims to have a protective feature. And so I think in kind of to reinforce that kind of notion, I'd like to offer the idea of the identification of work, which very much is a mandatory set of rules. And yet the enforcement of those rules doesn't, I would argue, a lot more could be done to enforce those rules, which would then have the same result of the tool that you are proposing as a new tool. So I think that there are some existing tools in place which perhaps could do with some additional, let's say, enforcement or additional attention at the same time as looking at new tools to address similar problems. So it's a controversial, perhaps, suggestion, but I put it out there in the interests of discussion and thinking. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan, for that comment. Rightly put, SACAP's mandate is to protect the public. And you are also correct that our role in having the ArchiTAD and how we how we advise practices to be operated. There's a thin line because ours is really the protection of the public. So we thank you for that comment, and we'll take it into. We acknowledge it, and yeah. So it's a worthy comment, and we'll just take it into consideration.
Just a comment from my side. Thank you, Vusi. Ryan, that's an excellent question you asked. Can I just say,
I think if we can move along with the question, and Maria.
Sorry, Vusi, Eugene is
okay.
Is online. Eugene, go ahead.
Yes. So I just wanted to comment on Ryan's comment, which is a very accurate and well formulated comment. I don't sit on the fees committee, but as I understand it, Ryan, SACAP has wanted to, for many years, develop an alternative way in which architects can charge the public for their services. So this ArchiTAD needed to do two things. It needed to actually enable the architect to understand in his own mind what services he's actually providing, and then to attach a cost to it. So this is a tool, and we made the point up front. This is a tool that can be used in the profession to enable the architect to calculate a fee, not based on a percentage, but based on tasks and deliverables. So how this pans out in real life, we will still need to see. But that's the objective, and I don't think it conflicts in any way with SACAP's mandate. Publishing fee guidelines. This is just an alternative guideline. But I'm excited. I think architects, even at university, could also be informed as to the kind of responsibilities they have and the deliverables that they will one day have to offer to clients. Thank you very much. Just a quick comment.
Thank you, colleagues. I think probably we are coming to an end of our session. Maybe let's give each other about 10 minutes wrap up. And as we promised that all the comments and the questions on the Q&A will be recorded or are recorded, and definitely we will attempt to respond to those or take those into consideration. Some of them are actually not queries or questions, they are suggestions. And again, as we said earlier on, that this is a consultation, and you are welcome to put forward any suggestion, you know, to better this tool, or you know, to make it work even more. But again, we must make it clear that this is an adaptable tool. You take out those areas that you don't need, you hide them, you show, you add, you subtract. So it is a basic tool that can be used anyway, for as long as you are providing architectural service. Yes,
Yes, President, I just want to check, have we come to the end of our program?
There's a hand there, Maria Malan. There's also Grant Thomas. Can we give them an opportunity?
Absolutely. Well, the more hands, the better. The more we thrash this out, the better. Go for it.
Maria Malan, can you hear us? Okay. No, maybe it's an old hand.
Anybody else? Mr. Marata, are you there? We also have our actuary, you know, on this professional fees committee, as part of the requirements of the Competitions Commission, to make sure that we're not busy colluding amongst ourselves. They insisted that we have an independent. So we have Mr. Marata here. Do you have any comments, Mr. Marata?
No, not at this moment. Thanks.
Yeah, so Mr. Marata is an actuarial scientist that does all these things with numbers, and he sits in our committee to make sure that we're not busy colluding amongst ourselves as it may have been projected outside. Yes, President, so are we saying that that's the end of the comments?
Yes.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. Yes.
My question is regarding stage 0 that we were told about. At that stage, how best can we find out if the client can really afford the services instead of just going ahead and at the later stage find yourself having to mitigate to the client?
Okay, Eugene, would you like to speak about stage 0? Or anybody? Okay. I will say that in my practice, I have used stage 0. I didn't call it that because we hadn't yet come to this part of the committee where we were talking about stage 0, but I did call it something like before stage 1. So there are ways where you can either decide, you're almost calling it something like a feasibility, fact-finding, a speedy stage. I'm using the word speedy, meaning to help you to decide whether there's a project that is feasible for you here or not. And then you can either decide to charge a lump sum, either you get it before, and then you do what you need to do in there, and then you decide whether you can take on the project or not. Or you can decide to do it at no charge, but then you're holding all the control to yourself, and then you are quantifying it in its hours and in its cost, and then you go and load it back in your fees later into your stages. but you also do let the client know that there's this pre-stage that you've done 1, 2, 3, and you're going to load it forward. The reason why we've put it in is because projects are changing and dynamics are changing. And sometimes people want to know, can we be able to go forward to something like this before we actually go forward? So it means you got to be engaged, you become engaged in the project before you can actually become engaged in the project. So that's how you could possibly look at it. Yes, but at least this time it becomes part of an organized structure.
Hello.
Yes, Eugene, please also go ahead. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, I asked a question in the Q&A panel. I don't think it has been answered because I looked through. The question is this: how do architects get paid for work done during the latent defects liability period, which extends up to their 5 years plus or thereabout from what JBCC calls final completion? The work sometimes gets really substantial. And how do you charge for that work? You know, because it was your project, you took it to final completion. Then issues came up that require substantial input of resources and time. Thank you. That's my question.
If you,
Yeah,
I have a thought. Yes, I have a thought on that one. And it's a very good question, and it's a very, very relevant question. Regrettably, not many clients understand when your service as an architect ends. And many of the client architect agreements don't describe that. A number of years ago, we introduced that into the SACAP client architect agreement to state categorically that this service that you've been appointed on concludes at the end of the 90-day, call it defects liability period. You sign the completion certificate, your service is concluded. So any inquiry or any investigation or any time that you then as a professional needs to spend after the conclusion of the project at the end of work stage 6, that is a new instruction and you're entitled to charge for that. So, I think practitioners must make it quite clear when they are appointed. They are appointed from work stage 1 to the end of work stage 6, and anything beyond that becomes the subject of a new instruction.
You got that, my colleague. Thank you, Eugene. We should not leave any money on the table. No, colleagues. And also another thing is really what's important is your contract, and you have to stick to it. And that's a lovely thing about including all those clauses that are put there so that you also have an exit point at the end of the project. Yes. Are there any other comments or questions?
Yeah, colleagues, I think I suggest that now I think we end the session, and this was just an introduction of this tool to the profession, and we will be welcoming suggestion. Can write to SACAP, whenever you sit and something clicks in your mind that you can add, please feel free to write to SACAP and add your input. So the process have already started, and I think, and again, I think it will get better and better, but really we need your input at the end of the day. So colleagues, as I said, that I think what is important here is the fact that this has been started, and I think it will get better, and we rely on you to input so that really these tools can actually help the profession going forward. We'll look into the questions there on the Q&A as recorded, and then definitely we will put everything together. And your inputs here, those questions which were asked, we'll definitely put them together. Colleagues, I think maybe let me hand over to you, VP, to close the session. Thank you. And before we do that, I think thank you very much, Eugene, for leading the session. Thank you. Over to you, VP.
VP, before you start, can I just say a word?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Monetti.
I just wanted to advise the attendee that the recording and the transcript, it will be on their profile on the library. There's a folder called library. We're going to put it in there in case it is a very big one, but it will be there on the library. Also, on our Facebook, it will remain there, and YouTube, but it will definitely be in their profile. We will send via email the link to the one that you have registered. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Monetti. Thanks for letting us know about that. Yes, my fine colleagues. You know, SACAP is about public protection, and an informed public is a protected public. But at the same time, protection goes both ways. If you are also able to protect yourself by having this beautiful long list of saying this is what we're going to do and this is what we've agreed to, then you have a basis to practice safely. So now what we have explored today through this task-based approach is not merely a new way of charging fees. It is in many aspects, it's like a decalibration of how we define value. Our value as practitioners giving a service. It's a move away from the abstraction towards precision, away from assumption towards intention. Because as you can see these days, people want to be clear and intentional. It asks of us, quite gently but firmly, to account for our work in a way that reflects its true nature, that is structured, deliberate, and deeply consequential, so that we start taking away the fact that the architecture and the architects is just this thing that's in the air and is not defined. For some, this may feel a bit unfamiliar and uncharted. For others, it may feel long overdue. But in this case, it presents us with an opportunity. We really have an opportunity here to start exploring things in a different way so that practices are built not only for their creativity, but also for their resilience. You know, we have to be decisive and in control of their own worth. So take this tool for yourselves. As we're working on it and redefining it, we will take it through its processes with competitions commissions so they can also, in a way, possibly bless it or to understand what we are trying to do. And then going forward, then when it's ready, it will be published to say this is a template, and it will go onto the website so that you can add to it, you can expand from it, you can decrease it. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the inputs that you have brought through. You can see that this is a SACAP that is also trying to move with the times and to find solutions for the profession, especially for the clients. I just want to thank you. I thank the administration for putting together all of this and all these RPs, all 750 of you that came to attend so that we can have proper consultation with each other. Thank you so much and have blessed ends of the week. Ends of the weeks, yes. All right then. Bye-bye, folk.
Thank you. Thank you, VP. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you, Colin. Bye-bye.
Thank you.